Howdy, y'all. This is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. What we have here is a channel to communicate. I want you folks to be thinking by the time you leave my videos. Why? Because I'm tired of people talking via what other people tell them to think. So, watch my video and enjoy the chance to think for yourself. Oh, and if you don't mind, like, subscribe, comment. And I've got a link tree down below that's got my social media, and it has my Patreon if you want to help out. Thank y'all. Okay, let's start out with the news agencies in this country are a joke when it comes to these kinds of stories. Now, News Nation, been covering this responsibly. Of course, Fox News is covering this story, but so many others are not. I had to do a lot of research into this, and once I got into it, it's like, holy cow. Okay, so a Muslim man that was coached in how to ask for political asylum was shipped to the U.S.-Mexico border from Africa, made his way to Chicago, and went after an obviously Jewish man walking to temple. He then got into a shootout with law enforcement after they showed up, and none of the liberal news media are actually calling it terrorism. The guy's name is Sidi Mohammed Abdali, 22, claims to be from Mauritania, and had already gone through the border walls with Border Patrol under the Biden-Harris rules. They finally changed it to a hate crime about a week after, and far more information is coming out. So we're going to get into what we already know. Okay, here's what Chicago police had to say about what happened. The above offender was arrested October 26, 2024 at 10 a.m. in the 6800 block of West Washtenaw. He was identified as the offender who, less than 30 minutes earlier, shot a 39-year-old male in the 2600 block of West Farwell, 24th District. The offender then fired at responding officers and paramedics multiple times from various locations. Officers returned fire, striking the offender. No member of the Chicago Police Department or Chicago Fire Department members were injured. A weapon was recovered on the scene. The offender was placed into custody, transported to an area hospital, and subsequently charged accordingly. No additional information is available at this time. Okay, that's from the day of the attack. The Center for Immigration Studies had a lot more information than what was being told by many others. In a shooting that bears hallmarks of a terror attack, 22-year-old Sidi Mohammed Abdali of Mauritania stands charged with opening fire on an identifiably Orthodox Jewish man walking to synagogue in Chicago, severely wounding him while shouting Allahu Akbar, before engaging police in an extended gun battle that landed the West African in a hospital facing a long prison term. The victim survived the attack. For days afterward, a downplaying Chicago media could not bring itself to report Abdali's immigration status as the national presidential election debate was reaching its fevered apogee, centered on the public safety consequences of the historic mass migration border crisis in flooded American cities like Chicago. Okay, took about a week before hate crime charges were put on. A little bit more information. Mohammed Abdali was encountered by U.S. Border Patrol after Bensman's piece appeared in Newsweek reported that ICE admitted that Abdali was encountered by U.S. Border Patrol on March 31st, 2023 near San Isidro, California, confirming the earlier Fox News claim that he had been apprehended at the border and was subsequently released into the United States. Abdali was apparently issued a notice to appear, NTA, the charging document placing aliens into removal proceedings, and released on his own recognizance. None of that makes sense from a legal standpoint, but it makes too much sense given the administration's longstanding border policies. And I'm wondering here, this was October 26, 2024 that he did the attack. He was found March 31st, 2023 when he entered the U.S. So my question is, what's he been doing? Who has he been in contact with for the past year and a half? As I explained, this is CIS, as I have explained. Multiple times in the past, Congress mandates that every illegal entrant be detained from the moment of encounter until the alien is either granted asylum or removed. The Biden-Harris administration, however, has opted to ignore that rule, and while one federal judge has curbed border releases on parole, he didn't prevent DHS from simply cutting illegal migrants loose into the country, though he made clear the department lacks the authority to do so. Even presuming, for the sake of argument, the DHS has inherent authority to ignore federal statutes and release border migrants under the General Arrest and Release Authority, however, such releases are still subject to decades-old standards. So let's get into the Mauritania situation. Okay, here's what CIS had to say about the Mauritania situation. Non-Mauritanians, and Malians in particular, nonetheless claim to be from Mauritania because it has a well-documented history of racial tension and discrimination, with Bedouin and Haitian Moors, who identify as Arabs on one side, and sub-Saharan non-Arab minorities on the other. Even those lines aren't so clearly cut, given that Bedouins used to enslave the Haitians. Slavery wasn't ended in the country until 1981 and wasn't criminalized until 2007. Go figure, Africa still had slavery. But in any event, the latter group still holds much more political and economic power in Mauritania than any other ones. Official abuses, therefore, usually satisfy the asylum standard for persecution on account of race. In other words, if you're looking for a country from which to seek asylum, Mauritania would be up there with North Korea among your top choices, assuming you could get away with it. There are certainly lots of people who would help to try to create bogus Mauritanian identity. Google fake Mauritanian and you will see websites captioned listings for fake Mauritanian death certificates, get a high quality fake Mauritanian ID card, Mauritania invoice fake template, and where can I get a fake Mauritanian ID? And that's just Google, not the dark web or other resources available to the smugglers who charge thousands of dollars to move West Africans to the U.S. Southwest border. Vetting challenges. Everything that's just been told is common knowledge among those who have followed asylum scams for decades. But what are the odds that the average Border Patrol agent in San Isidro is even going to think about potential fraud when faced with the purported Mauritanian migrant? They are on the front end of the operation, not the back end where the truth occasionally comes to light. Not to blame the agents, given the ready availability of fraudulent Mauritanian documents, how could any of them identify such a migrant, let alone determine that one doesn't pose a danger to the national security or a threat to the community before releasing the migrant under the Biden-Harris release regime? Maybe it's time to obey the law. I have barely heard any of this in the news. I've heard a lot about the election, and rightfully so, that's a big topic. But you would think you would hear more about what is basically a terrorist attack in Chicago. No! Liberal media doesn't want this getting out. The main media in Chicago is exceedingly liberal. The Chicago police are dealing with the situation. ICE, the Biden-Harris administration, all of them, you know how they stand. So you have a situation in which an American citizen was attacked and was put in the hospital by somebody who came across the border claiming an identity that, do we really know it's real or not? That's another part of it. So we have a really bad situation here. This guy was in the country for a year and a half. My question is, what in the world was he doing for a year and a half? And how do we end this situation? Was it covered up because politics? What's going on here? I think that we all need to ask these questions. So I just thought I'd bring this to y'all so y'all can form your own opinions, scream at the right people. This has been Paul, Redneck Thinker. Y'all have a good day now. Bye. Folks, I just want to say thank you for listening. I want to thank you for taking your time. I want to hear what your comments are about what you think on this topic, because your comments are what's important, not necessarily mine. I don't care if you're you're Republican. I don't care if you're conservative. I don't care if you're liberal. I don't care if you're Democrat. I want to hear your opinion on these topics. I want to thank you yet again for listening to my video. Like, subscribe, and all that other hoopla. This has been Paul, the Redneck Thinker. Y'all have a good day now. Bye.